मातृभ्यो नमः, पितृभ्यो नमः, गुरुभ्यो नमः, सभाये नमः, सभापतिभ्यश्च नमो नमः. Very warm welcome and namaskar to all of you. And I will not introduce anybody or welcome anybody, because when I see a room full of people that are already familiar, I'm sure I'll miss somebody. So namaste to everybody, and it's a great pleasure to see this effort of IKSA come to fruition, especially in the journal area today, and it gives me great pleasure to be here with all of you, to be at this momentous occasion, I would say. Because one of the things that I'll just talk about 2 or 3 things that are very, very critical as we go forward. One is, as many of the speakers have said, including Chaitra-ji, Jyotirmay-ji, and even Dhananjay, they're all saying, whenever we talk about any Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, there are 3 things that are really important. One is, of course, the drishti, the perspective, that makes it uniquely Indian. Then second one is the parampara, which is how this knowledge is transmitted, and the prayojana. These are the 3 triads around which we organize our knowledge system that makes it unique in its own way. So Bharatiya Jnana Parampara also has its own drishti, parampara, and then basically the prayojana. So what I think, as academicians, one of the things that we are more focused on is to connect the parampara, through parampara, we want to connect the drishti and then the prayojana and then take it forward. That's essentially where most of our action lies in. So when we talk about parampara itself, of course, there is one thing about preservation of the knowledge. That is one aspect. The second aspect is transmission of the knowledge. And then the third part would be the creation of the knowledge. And so we are intimately involved with all 3 as academicians. So I think it is in this area that the IKSA journal is going to contribute, especially in the showcasing the creation and the transmission of the knowledge, and also preservation in the sense of creating records that will be there for the future. So here, there are a few things that I wanted to mention from the Indian tradition that we have. One of the things that we have to really be careful about when we talk about any of the knowledge creation and then this kind of things is, if you look at knowledge production, it was never the job of governments or the rulers in this country. It was always the job of scholars. It was always taken care of by the scholars and the society, supported by the society. So that way, I'm very, very happy that IKSA is starting this journal and not an IKS division. Because you see, IKSA represents the scholarly community that is really starting this thing. So that really represents the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, the traditions of Bharat, where the knowledge creation and transmission is really the basically engaged with the scholars and not really the rulers or anybody. So that way this will sustain. There will be some sense of permanence to this, and it will be something that will be lasting. And also one more thing, as scholars, then one thing that is good in that sense, but then at the second time, also as scholars we have to be cautious about one more thing. The rigor that Professor Sastubhiji was talking about is an extremely important aspect. And when we talk about faith, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, faith will always be blind. See, there is no way that you can make a Tarkic of faith. It is always going to be blind. But then what our parampara says is, it talks about all the pramanas, and then of course it talks about the tarka, it talks about both the sukshma and the basically the sthula pramanas. And these are very important things that we need to think about. And that's what Professor Dhananjay was also referring to when he was saying the mind as an instrument. He was talking about that. So in addition to the pratyaksha pramanas, which is external in things, all the 5 senses, we also use mind as an instrument, and this is where the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara refers. And we have to be making sure that whatever the traditions that we are trying to refer to and trying to talk about and then preserve or even propagate, they are rigorous, and that is what our tradition teaches us. So the second aspect, as a thing that for us as academicians who are going to run this, is to look into the rigor of this, whatever endeavor that we are going to have. And the third one is the concept of integrity and the scholarship. So no compromise on the scholarship or the thing. Because this is something that our tradition teaches, and this is where I'm so happy that the kind of scholars that are involved in IKSA, I'm very sure that this is the kind of scholarship that they will basically uphold. Because when Lalita Sahasranama was being written, one of the Bhashyakaras refused to write the Bhashya. Why? Because, just to tell you what was the level of scholarship integrity that was expected, He said, I cannot write the Bhashya because I owe 100 varahas or gold coins to somebody. Because I have that loan, I have some obligation, and a scholar is supposed to be without any obligation to anyone. Independence of a scholarship, independence of a scholar. Because of that, then he didn't have money, so he prayed to the Devi Ma, and she gave him that 100 coins, and then the story goes that he was able to clear the debt, and then wrote the Bhashya of the Gita Sahasranam. So, thinking of such kind of scholars, even to write something like a commentary on an existing text, they were making sure that they had no obligation of any sort. That essentially this is what is even reflected in what Professor Majumdar and basically they historians, the kind of tradition that they talk about, the kind of inspiration that they talk about. Now, pursuit of truth and only truth, and then fearlessness along with it. I think because ultimately, as Gita Acharya said, which Dhananjay was also referring to, Nahi and Sadrisham Pavitramaya Vidyate. This is really the Jnana Yajna that we are all part of. And I assure you from the IKS division side that whatever is going to be possible from our side will help you. But ultimately, this is the responsibility of the scholars. So, Sarkar will only help you, but really it is in your hands. And as Chanakya says, आपके हाथ में सृष्टि भी है, दया भी है, करने की शक्ति है. नमस्ते.